You know, when the wife first told me she wanted to start a farm on her small property, I said she was crazy. We only have a half an acre on red clay and it's basically on a mountainside. But my motto is happy wife, happy life, so I said let's go for it. I've really started to realize as I've gotten older the importance of knowing how to live off the land and fend for oneself. I didn't think this was possible on such a small plot of land, but now after years I've realized it's very feasible. In today's fast food world, where everything can be attained instantly or overnight, I think our society has become spoiled. It was only a few generations ago that almost every household nationwide at least had a small garden. Now not only is it uncommon, it's almost unheard of. I'm not saying people should ditch their iPhones and iPads and their technology, give up all those comforts that technology brings us. I just think it's very important that everyone knows how to live off the land and also reduce their environmental impact. To get started, we needed barns, so I told my wife to pick out several different designs and blueprints online. I would try to combine the best features from each one. Functionality was probably the main aspect that I was focusing on when building these. One thing we had to keep in mind was local predators such as coyotes and snakes. So for the foundation of both barns, I laid flat concrete blocks to prevent coyotes from digging under any fencing. I also use diatomaceous earth. I didn't realize the importance of that stuff, but you could put it in their feed. The hens love taking dust baths in it, and it's pretty much, it wipes out all mites and small larvae and stuff like that. This will also help with any kind of potential predator that would normally dig under the fence, putting the flat blocks down, and then possibly take out your entire flock of hens in a single night. Also create a simple drainage system inside the chicken coop with PVC pipes with 1/16 inch holes drilled in them. On top of this, I then spread out about 10 50-pound bags of play sand. This will help absorb urine and chicken poo, and then any excess water will drain down and then out of the PVC pipes. Now, we tried several different watering systems for our hens, but the one I finally found that works best, and it's low maintenance, is building a cage around the watering buckets, big enough for the chickens to get their heads through to get to the water, but small enough to where they can't get out. This prevents the water from getting nearly as contaminated with chicken poo and debris that they're constantly digging up. I then built a hatch accessible from the outside, making access to the water buckets much easier to get to, without worrying about chickens escaping and having to round them up again. For the goat barn, pretty much the only thing I was concerned about was just keeping the goats dry, because they're susceptible to pneumonia. I still laid flat blocks all the way around to keep out pests and to keep their area dry. To keep goats happy, they also need some kind of obstacle course or jumping platforms. Constantly keep them entertained. Otherwise, your goats will get bored very quickly and start attacking each other, or worst case scenario, their owners. One of my biggest tips that I can give anyone, and I cannot stress this enough, is do not, under any circumstances, buy regular goat pellet feed for your goats. This feed is worse than any type of fast food and can potentially kill your goats because of calcium buildup and kidney stone. We learned this the hard way not too long ago when our male goat almost died. He had to have emergency surgery and part of his urethra cut, flushed out, and then burned before his bladder exploded and killed him. So after avoiding this catastrophe, we found the healthiest recipe for making your own goat feed. We bought a 50-gallon trash can with a secure lid in order to mix this ratio up with. The recipe is 50 pounds of alfalfa pellets, 50 pounds of Timothy grass pellets, 25 pounds of whole oats, 10 pounds of black oil sunflower seeds, and 10 pounds of pumpkin seeds. Now this is just supplemental because their main source of nutrition should be from local vegetation, Timothy grass, alfalfa grass, and roots that they love to chew on. Their hooves also need to be trimmed down every few weeks to prevent problems. And that's roughly all the basics to taking care of your goats. Goats have wonderful personalities and love to play even as adults. The term King of the Hill pretty much came from how goats interact with each other. It's absolutely hilarious watching them chase each other around and jump on top of things and compete to be at the very top, even if it's only a couple feet higher. As you can see here, the goats are having a blast jumping on top of my outdoor grill, my fire pit, and my goat feeder. That being said, goats will also try to challenge you and place you in their order of dominance. This usually only happens badly with the male goats when the female goats are in heat. Our male goat almost took out my knee one day and out of the blue. so it can be dangerous at times. I fought with him every day for weeks trying to show him that I was the alpha, but he would not submit. I found that the most effective way to discipline a bucky goat is to treat them like a giant cat and just spray them in the face with some water. But as seen here, sometimes that doesn't even deter them, so the safest way to avoid getting stabbed or rammed is to immediately grab them by the horns. They will never give up and never submit when you have them by the horns, so you must flip them on their side, hold their horns to the ground and prevent them from standing back up. Now, sometimes you will have to lay there for a good 15 minutes before they finally wear out and submit, but even then they sometimes want to keep charging at you, so it's best if you could put them back in the pen or a separate area closed off while you finish working. That's why you really only need one male goat for a herd of goats. Fact of the matter is, a genetically superior goat can impregnate 50 to 100 female goats per day. This is why male goats usually sell for so much cheaper than female goats. Other than the occasional defiant goat, my wife and I love our goats and their personalities. They're really fun, and most of the time they're very friendly creatures. It's very entertaining to see them interact and play together every day. Benefits of having goats is, of course, the goat milk, which is the healthiest milk humans can consume other than breast milk, and it's far superior nutrition-wise to cattle milk. Fresh goat cheese is really not that hard to make and tastes absolutely amazing. The males can also be rented out for stud service, and goats can be rented out to clear property of any type of bush, weed, and even briar. We have many different breeds of chickens here, everything from your standard layers like Leghorns and Isa Browns, to your speckled Sussex, your Dominiques, your Wyandottes, your Black Cochins, Partridge, and we have several others, but our more exotic is the Millie de Flores. Out of all the breeds we have, the one we're most in love with is definitely our Millies. They're one of the smallest breeds in the world and usually only grow about to 1/4 the size of a standard chicken. They're much more tame and can even be house pets. You may think that this would seriously affect the yield of eggs due to the smaller stature, but the eggs are in fact usually about 3/4 the size of a regular egg. So for cost efficiency, eventually we plan on having nothing but Millie de Flores because they eat much less, they poop much less, which is a big bonus, a lot less to clean up there. They take up less room, so you can have many more chickens, and they still yield eggs that are comparable in size with normal hens. Now, one of the biggest problems we ran into with the chickens was cost efficiency. For the first year with the cost of chicken feed, we were paying about $5 per dozen eggs. This is way more than even buying premium eggs from the local farmers market. So our first logical conclusion was to start free-ranging our hens. But by only having a half acre of land, and most of it is red clay, their ability to free range was very limited. So we thought to ourselves, what are our other options? What can we do to make this worthwhile and cost efficient? That's when, after doing a lot of research, I found out about compost feeding. It's a revolutionary and eco-friendly method of feeding in which chickens live solely off of kitchen scraps and compost. The chickens can feed off of the bugs, the fungi, and food scraps for a completely balanced diet. All of the macros can be gained with this method, including complex carbs and protein. Now, to get started, we needed lots of materials, but you'd be surprised how quickly you can gather stuff up. It doesn't take much time, doesn't take much effort. We needed a whole lot of different sources to start our compost piles. We divided them up into two basic categories, which are greens and your browns. Pretty easy to remember. For our greens, we save food scraps, grass, weeds, goat, and chicken manure. For our browns, we save tea leaves, straw, wood chips, and pond shavings, sawdust, coffee, and also dead plants that you gather up, pull from your garden, pull from around the yard. We have a scrap bowl right at the kitchen sink for all table scraps, including veggie ends and peels. I also bought 2 steel strainers for the bottom of every sink to collect food particles from washing dishes. You wouldn't believe how much is collected in those strainers. We even save cardboard and sales papers. To keep the microbes and decomposition constantly happening, we add water every few days. And at the end of every week, using shovels and pitchforks, we flip the piles around just to mix it up and make sure the decomposition is pretty much even. So when we let the chickens out to free range, they pretty much head straight for the piles and straight for the bushes and trees, which we put the final finished results around. See, after about 5 to 6 weeks, the compost pile becomes less appealing to the hens and slowly starts just becoming fertilizer for your trees, garden, or any other plants you want to see some miraculous growth in a very short time. If you choose not to use or no longer need fertilizer, then the going rates for the superior quality fertilizer goes for anywhere between $25 and $50 per square yard, which, depending on how big your compost piles are, can yield even more money than selling eggs. Another profitable way of making money from your egg production is finding some nice recipes for pickled eggs. Usually the only expensive part of making pickled eggs is buying the mason jars. I might get into that a little later in another series and show examples of some of our more popular recipes. So, after about 3 years of running our small farm and picking up these tips and tricks as we go, it has become much more cost efficient. It takes a little work, but not nearly as much as you would think once you get into a regular daily schedule and you stay on top of things. It has impacted my wife and I in a very positive way, brought us many hours of joy, not to mention fresh eggs are the most amazing eggs you'll ever taste in your life. Consider this. By the time most eggs reach the shelves in your local grocery stores, they are already a month or older. So not only the taste quality is lower, but the nutritional value is lowered as well. Well, I really hope this info has helped some people out and possibly inspired them to start their own farm, even if you don't have a lot of land available. It is possible. Even low-income families can make this a reality and really enhance their life in a positive way. If the entire world were able to do this, then our environmental impact would be tremendously less, and even world hunger itself could possibly be a thing of the past. All it takes is that first step in believing in yourself. My wife Lily and I really thank you for watching and hope you continue to follow our progress in future videos, as we're about to buy a new house and build a much bigger farm within the next month. This is Lee Hunter from Hunter's Homestead saying thank you and God bless.